Wednesday, 18th of September 2024. Here are the toppers. Blackpool Illuminations shine like diamonds in the dark. Backcracker Palmer pushes all the right buttons. And Fancy Dan serial killer swaps tea for death. And later in the programme, we ask, why did the hurricane go to the party? Because it was a blowout. Those are the headlines. The lights are on, but is anybody home?
News bang, piercing the veil of fiction with reality's razor. 1879.
Tragedy struck Blackpool today as the annual Illuminations Festival took a dark turn. What began as a harmless attempt to light up the seaside town has now spiraled into an uncontrollable inferno of luminescence, blinding thousands and causing widespread panic.
Eyewitnesses report that the initial switch-on ceremony went smoothly, but things quickly got out of hand when organisers, in a misguided attempt to outdo last year's display, cranked up the voltage to ludicrous levels. Local resident Doris Pimple described the scene. It was like staring into the sun if the sun was made of 1 million light bulbs and had pictures of donkeys on it.
Emergency services are struggling to cope with the influx of temporarily blinded tourists, many of whom are wandering aimlessly along the promenade, bumping into lampposts and each other. The local economy, usually boosted by the event, is now in tatters as visitors flee the town, leaving behind only their singed retinas and melted ice creams.
Petit Mai de Stuckersil, 1895.
It has been revealed that the entire chiropractic profession was founded on a drunken bet in 1895. Daniel David Palmer, a snake oil salesman and part-time contortionist, reportedly wagered he could cure deafness by violently cracking someone's spine.
Eyewitnesses claim Palmer stumbled upon deaf janitor Harvey Lillard passed out in an alley. "I'll fix him," Palmer slurred, before launching himself onto Lillard's back with a sickening crunch. Miraculously, Lillard's hearing was restored, along with the ability to taste colours and speak fluent Mandarin.
The medical community initially dismissed Palmer's discovery as absolute codswallop, but were silenced when Palmer demonstrated his technique on a group of skeptical doctors, curing everything from gout to demons from the nether realm.
1981.
And now, the shocking tale of Nestor Pirotte, Belgium's most notorious aristocratic impersonator and part-time murderer. In 1981, this dastardly Belgian decided to spice up his weekend by posing as Baron von Waffel and brutally slaughtering an unsuspecting antiques dealer.
Eyewitnesses report that Pirotte sauntered into the shop, twirling his fake moustache and demanding to see the dealer's finest murder weapons. When presented with a collection of rusty spoons, Pirotte reportedly exclaimed, "How positively murderous!" before proceeding to demonstrate their effectiveness.
Local resident Jean Fromage told us, "I always thought aristocrats were supposed to be refined. This one seemed more interested in refinishing with blood."
Pirotte's cunning disguise included a monocle, top hat, and a suspiciously ketchup-stained cravat. His flawless upper-class accent, described as somewhere between constipated and gargling marbles, fooled everyone.
Edit news bang. When the truth hurts, we are there to nurse it back to health.
And now, for a look at the weather across the pond, we turn to the inimitable Shakanaka Giles.
All right, weather watchers, let's get to it. Down in the Lone Star State, they're in for a real howler tomorrow. Imagine, if you will, the Gulf of Mexico deciding to have a tantrum of epic proportions, like a toddler throwing their toys out of the pram. This Category 3 storm, a real bruiser, is going to leave Indianola looking like a tornado's been through a china shop. Expect buildings to go flying and the locals to be scurrying for cover, much like cockroaches when the lights come on. might want to batten down the hatches, y'all, because this one's going to leave a mark, both literally and figuratively. As for the rest of us, well, we'll be counting our blessings and hoping the weathermen have their crystal balls polished up nice and shiny.
"19 18.
The Central Powers faced a crushing defeat today at the Battle of Dobro Pole, leading to Bulgaria's withdrawal from World War I and the liberation of Vardar, Macedonia. This Allied victory, achieved by Serbian, French and Greek forces, marked a turning point in the conflict. The collapse of Bulgaria's war effort exposed the Central Powers' southern flank, hastening their eventual defeat. For more on this historic event, we turn to our war correspondent, Brian Bastable.
And now, my friends, we find ourselves standing on this hallowed ground where the echoes of battle still ring in our ears. The Battle of Dobro Pole rages on around us as we bear witness to the clash of steel and the cries of the fallen. The Central Powers, once a formidable force, now teeter on the brink of defeat. Their once mighty army, now but a shadow of its former self, faces annihilation at the hands of the relentless Allied onslaught. The air is thick with the acrid scent of gunpowder as the soldiers of the Allied forces charge forward, their bayonets gleaming in the sun. The Bulgarian line, once thought to be impregnable, crumbles before them as they cut a swathe through the enemy ranks. But alas, the cost of victory is high as the battlefield is transformed into a gruesome tableau of blood and gore. The ground is littered with the mangled remains of the fallen, their limbs scattered like so many broken twigs. The air is filled with the cries of the wounded as they call out for their mothers, their voices a haunting reminder of the terrible cost of war. But my friends, let us not forget the sacrifices made by these brave men as they fight for their homes, their families, and their very way of life. And as we stand here in the midst of this battle, let us remember that even in the darkest of times there is always hope. For even as the smoke and the dust of battle swirl around us, the promise of a new dawn, a new day, lies just beyond the horizon. So, let us stand tall, let us stand proud, and let us remember the sacrifices made by those who have come before us. For in the end, it is they who have paved the way for the liberation of Vardar, Macedonia, and the eventual triumph of the Allied forces. And so, my friends, as we stand here on this hallowed ground, let us take a moment to remember the sacrifices made by these brave men, and let us honor their memory as we march forward into the future together. This is Brian Bastable reporting live from the front lines of the Battle of Dobro Pole.
1981.
Belgian serial killer Nestor Pirotte, masquerading as a blue-blooded aristocrat, has brutally murdered an unsuspecting antiques dealer in Brussels. This grisly act would lead to his death sentence. Pirotte, a master of deception and escape, had a history of violence dating back to the 1950s. His ability to blend into high society made him a particularly dangerous predator. For more on this story, we go to our crime correspondent, Ken Schitt. Ken, what can you tell us about this aristocratic assassin?
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your antique pearls, because I'm about to serve you a Belgian waffle of pure depravity. It's 1981, and while you're busy bopping to Blondie, a monster named Nestor Pirotte is busy bashing in the skull of an innocent antiques dealer in Brussels. This two-bit con artist with delusions of grandeur thought he could play dress-up as a fancy-pants aristocrat and get away with murder. Well, surprise, surprise, you pompous prick. The long arm of the law caught up with your silk-stockinged ass. Pirotte, the bastard son of a gamekeeper and a seamstress, spent his miserable life pretending to be a blue-blooded toff, But let me tell you, folks, the only thing blue about this scumbag was the color of his victims' faces as he choked the life out of them. The Belgian justice system decided to play hardball and sentence this fake count to dance the gallows jig. But don't get your knickers in a twist, bleeding hearts. They later chickened out and gave him a life sentence instead. So remember, kiddies, the next time some smooth-talking nobleman offers to sell you a castle full of furniture, you better run faster than a waffle iron on steroids. This is Ken Shit, reminding you that in this world, the only thing you can trust is that you can't trust a damn thing.
1870.
And on this day in 1870, a geyser in Wyoming Territory was discovered to be erupting with alarming regularity. Nathaniel P. Langford, part of the Washburn-Langford-Doane expedition, stumbled upon this punctual plume of water and steam, promptly dubbing it Old Faithful. This discovery would lead to the creation of Yellowstone National Park, forever changing how Americans view their natural wonders and their timekeeping habits. For more on this story, we cross to our American correspondent, Melody Wintergreen, who's standing by a steaming hole in the ground. Melody?
This is Melody Wintergreen, reporting from the wild and woolly Wyoming Territory, where the winds of history are about to blow up a storm. 154 years ago today, the legendary Washburn-Langford-Doane expedition made a discovery that would change the world forever. Nathaniel P. Langford, the intrepid expedition leader, was the first to lay eyes on a geyser erupting with clockwork precision, a natural wonder he christened Old Faithful. As Langford gazed upon this aqueous apparition, his breath was surely stolen, his heart surely quickened. For here was a geologic gusher, a volcanic vortex, a hydrothermal Houdini that would defy the very laws of nature. Old Faithful, the name Langford bestowed, would become synonymous with the Yellowstone wilderness, a symbol of the untamed American frontier. Now, in the shadow of that historic moment, I stand at the edge of the very geyser basin where Langford made his fateful sighting. The ground trembles beneath my feet, a subterranean symphony building to a climactic crescendo. Any moment now, Old Faithful will erupt, sending a scalding jet of water skyward in a breathtaking display. The faithful will bear witness, their cameras poised, their faces aglow with wonder. For in this age of technological triumph, the timeless allure of nature's own fireworks show remains undiminished. So as Old Faithful prepares to put on its performance, let us raise a toast to the trailblazers who first ventured into these untamed wilds, whose vision and tenacity paved the way for the world's first national park. Their legacy lives on in every eruption, in every awestruck visitor. For here, in the shadow of Old Faithful, the spirit of exploration and preservation burns eternal. Melody Wintergreen, Newsbang News, Wyoming Territory.
News bang, slicing through the spin, serving up reality steak with a side of fact chips. 1948.
And now, for a look back at the historic 1948 Invincibles tour, we turn to our sports correspondent, Ryder Boff. Ryder, take us on a journey through time to relive this cricketing masterpiece.
And now let's hop in our time-travelling Morris Minor and zip back to 1948, where the Australian cricket team has just wrapped up their Invincibles tour of England. These Antipodean titans of the willow and leather have played 34 matches, including 5 tests, without tasting the bitter pill of defeat. It's a feat as rare as rocking horse droppings, I tell you. Led by the indomitable Don Bradman, a man with a batting average higher than the number of pints I've consumed at the Dog and Duck, these Aussies have steamrollered through England like a kangaroo on steroids. Bradman at the crease now, facing Bedser. He's taking guard like a king, surveying his domain. Bedser runs in, bowls, and it's a glorious cover drive for 4. The crowd erupts, but Bradman barely acknowledges it. He just tucks his bat under his arm and stares down the bowler like a hawk, eyeing a particularly plump vole. And here comes Lindwall to bowl. He's got a run-up like a runaway steam engine. The batsman looks terrified, frankly. He's frozen like a rabbit in the headlights. Oh dear. And Lindwall's clean bowled him. The bails are scattered like confetti at a particularly violent wedding. Ray Lindwall and Keith Miller, bowling faster than a greyhound with its tail on fire, have left English batsmen quaking in their cricket whites. I remember my own cricketing days back in '82. I was opening the batting for the BBC Sports and Social Club against the formidable accounts department. I strode out to the crease, bold as brass, only to be bowled first ball by Nigel from payroll. His googly was so mysterious it could have been written by Agatha Christie herself. But back to 48, and the Aussies have been unstoppable. Even when England thought they had a chance, chasing down 404 runs at Headingley, Bradman steps up and smashes 173 not out. And there it is. Bradman leans into that one, sending it soaring over the boundary for 6. The crowd gasped. You could hear a pin drop, or possibly a dropped teacup. Bradman raises his bat, a barely perceptible nod of acknowledgement. He's like a surgeon who's just performed a complicated appendectomy with a cricket bat. It was like watching a master chef prepare a souffle while everyone else was still trying to crack an egg. The tour's success has been so complete, there are rumours that the Queen is considering renaming the Thames to Bradman's Creek and replacing the lions in Trafalgar Square with giant statues of Keith Miller's moustache. Of course, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. There was that incident at Lord's when a flock of seagulls, clearly English supporters, tried to sabotage the match by dropping their loads on the pitch. But even that couldn't stop the Aussie juggernaut. Bill Typhoon Johnston simply used the guano as extra grip for his spin bowling. And let's not forget young Neil Ferret Harvey, who's been ferreting out runs like a, well, ferret ferrets out rabbits. His batting has been so sublime, there's talk of him being knighted by the Australian government, assuming they can find a sword that isn't being used to fend off drop bears. As the Invincibles sail back to Australia, leaving behind a trail of broken English hearts and shattered wickets, one can't help but wonder, will cricket ever be the same again? Will England ever recover? And most importantly, will Don Bradman finally reveal the secret of his success? Is it the Vegemite, the cork hats, or perhaps it's the way he lovingly whispers to his bat before each innings like a mother soothing a colicky infant? Whatever the secret, this tour will go down in history as one of the greatest cricketing achievements of all time. And I've been Ryder Boff, wishing I could bat half as well as I can drink. Cheerio.
Brace yourselves for a journey through time and geopolitical turmoil as Polly Beep navigates the roads of yesteryear.
Good evening, road warriors and time travellers. Polly Beep here with your traffic and travel update for this fateful Wednesday, September 18th, 1961. First up, we've got a bit of a kerfuffle on the A75 near Ndola, Northern Rhodesia. A plane carrying UN Secretary-General Dag Hammarskjöld has taken an unscheduled detour into the ground. Expect delays and diplomatic tensions in the area. And if you're heading that way, pack extra snacks and a peace treaty just in case. Meanwhile, on the M1 near London, we've got reports of mysterious circumstances causing tailbacks. Could be sabotage, could be an attack, or it could just be that someone's left their indicator on for 50 miles. Either way, approach with caution and a healthy dose of skepticism. Over in the Congo, peacekeeping missions are causing some right traffic snarls. If you're planning on driving through, be prepared for complexities, dangers, and the occasional UN vehicle blocking your path. Remember, transparency and accountability are key. So keep those windows clean and your receipts handy. And finally, for those of you on the B789 near the United Nations headquarters, expect major congestion as diplomats scramble to fill the shoes of the late, great Hammarskjöld. Traffic's moving slower than international negotiations. So pack your patience and maybe brush up on your peacekeeping skills while you wait. That's all for now, folks. Remember, whether you're resolving conflicts or just trying to get to work, always buckle up and keep your eyes on the road ahead. This is Polly Beep signing off and heading back to the future.
1879.
And now, for a dazzling report on Blackpool's luminous legacy, we turn to our science correspondent, Calamity Prendeville.
Good evening, viewers. Tonight we're illuminating the story of Blackpool's dazzling innovation that's been lighting up British seasides since 1879. Yes, it's the Blackpool Illuminations.
It's 1879 and Blackpool's tourism board is in a tizzy. How do we keep the punters coming when the weather turns grim? They wondered. Then, like a bolt from the blue, or should I say a spark from the socket, inspiration struck. Let's blind them with science, they cried.
Enter Professor Archibald Wattage, a mad scientist with a penchant for light bulbs and seaside rock. He concocted a plan to create electric sunshine using a whopping 8 arc lamps. It was like having 8 miniature suns, only without the risk of sunburn.
The locals were sceptical at first. It'll never catch on, they said, munching on fish and chips. But oh, how wrong they were. The illuminations were an instant hit, drawing crowds from as far as Cleethorpes.
Fast forward to today, and Blackpool's lights are brighter than ever. They've got over 1 million bulbs now, enough to make the moon jealous. And it's not just static displays anymore. Oh no, they've got laser shows that would make the Millennium Falcon envious, and fibre optics that could confuse a deep-sea anglerfish.
But the real genius? The illuminated trams. It's like riding a disco ball on rails. Who needs the Northern Lights when you've got the Blackpool lights, eh?
So there you have it, folks. Blackpool Illuminations, keeping Britain's seasides lit and tourists squinting since 1879. This is Calamity Prendeville, signing off and heading for a chip butty on the prom.
Udley's News Bang, cracking the egg of deception to reveal the yolk of reality.
In 1873, financial panic gripped the nation as J. Cook & Company, a prominent banking firm, spectacularly collapsed. The ensuing economic turmoil sent shockwaves through Wall Street, leaving a trail of bankrupt institutions and shattered dreams in its wake. This catastrophic event, now known as the Panic of 1873, ushered in a prolonged period of economic misery that would last until the twilight of the decade. For more on this financial fiasco and its far-reaching consequences, we turn to our business correspondent, Perkins Stornoway.
Panic of 1873. Biscay, good, occasionally rough, turning stormy. J. Cook & Company, riding high. Railroad barons. Dogger, moderate, becoming poor. Visibility, 0, overextended. Bankruptcy, a train wreck of epic proportions. Thames estuary, variable 3 or 4 occasionally. 5. Bank failures, like dominoes. Shannon becoming poor. Outlook, bleak. Depression, 6 long years. A tunnel with no end in sight. Cromarty, east or northeast, 3 or 4 occasionally rough. Banking system, exposed. Cracks appearing, Swiss cheese more like. Reforms, regulations. Bean counters rejoice. Viking, slight or moderate, becoming a gale. Global depression, spreading like wildfire. Europe, sneezing. Bank failures, stagnation. Lundy, occasionally rough, turning very rough. Political landscape shifting. Republicans out of favour. Monetary reform in vogue. And that's the business.
1851.
The New York Times, a newspaper of such gravitas that it makes other publications weep with envy, was born today in 1873. Founded by Henry Jarvis Raymond and George Jones, this bastion of journalistic integrity aimed to rise above the sensationalism plaguing the industry. Little did they know their creation would one day become the go-to source for crossword puzzles and pretentious dinner party conversations. For more on this earth-shattering development, we go to our culture correspondent, Smithsonian Moss.
Now, at this point of the evening, we welcome listeners on FM who've just joined us.
Whoa, Newsbang Nation. It's your girl, Smithsonian Moss, back with another scintillating report. And today, we're celebrating the founding of the New York Times, the OG newspaper of the United States. Now, I know what you're thinking. Smithsonian? Why should I care about some ancient newspaper? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because this story's got it all. Drama, intrigue, and even a few scandals. So, it's 1851 and two intrepid journalists, Henry Jarvis Raymond and George Jones, are like, hey, we're sick of all the sensationalism in the media. Let's start our own newspaper and make it all classy and objective. And thus, the New York Times was born. But, of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. The paper struggled financially, losing around $0, 1 cent per week, which is like a gazillion dollars in today's money. But then, along comes Adolf Ux, the newspaper's version of a fairy godmother, and he's all, hey, I'll just buy this paper and turn it into the most respected newspaper in the land. And boy, did he deliver. Under Oak's leadership, the Times became known for its hard-hitting journalism and groundbreaking coverage of events like the sinking of the Titanic. Now, I know some of you young bloods might be thinking, the New York Times? Isn't that just a bunch of old folks yelling at clouds? But trust me, this paper's still got it. From its iconic crossword puzzles to its incisive editorials, the Times remains the gold standard of journalism. So, there you have it, folks, the New York Times, the original and still the best. And if you don't like it, well, as the great philosopher Taylor Swift once said, haters gonna hate, 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 hate. Whoa, indeed.
The news bang, aiming the arrow of honesty into the bullseye of ignorance.
And finally, a quick flick through tomorrow's papers. The Times lead with Rebel Yell for Joy as Union takes a pounding in Georgia. The Guardian have Greek student sets himself ablaze in protest at Yunta. There's a rather gruesome picture there. The Independent opt for Kiwi ladies get the vote. And it's all thanks to Kate. That's a big photo of Kate Shepherd. The Mail have gone for chickens run amok in Birmingham, which doesn't seem to be related to anything. And the Sun, Chancellor in hot water over toilet dash. I'm not sure what that's about either. That's all for tonight. Newsbang will be back tomorrow when I'll be reading from the Morecambe Evening Stalker. And we'll also have the Bigfoot forecast, the giant squid racing results, and an interview with the infamous Bubblegum twins. Until then, it's good night from me.
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. Newsbang is a comedy show, written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.